mean, it goes to tell you how unpopular and how bad this bill is.
Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost says nearly 1 in 4 people in his district rely on the Affordable Care Act. He says about 189,000 people will see the cost of their health care coverage soar should Congress let pandemic-era subsidies expire at the end of the year.
And this is an urgent fight to protect the health of our people, to create a comprehensive healthcare system where every single person gets the care that they need when they need it. And whether it's student loans, healthcare, housing affordability, we can't accept this argument that working people are living outside of their means and that's why we're in this situation. It's not because we live outside of our means, it's because we've been denied the means to live.
And so what we say is we don't want ICE just out of Minneapolis, but we want ICE out of all of our communities. And we must ensure that we use every tool in our toolbox, which includes voting no on the DHS appropriations bill. No more funding for terrorizing our communities.
Enjoy the video. Also, my name is Jason. I have the pleasure of serving as Congressman Frost District Director. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It does mean a lot to us that, again, you took some time out of your evening to come and spend some time with us. I just have a few housekeeping notes, and I swear to you, I'm going to get out of your way. There are a few things that I do want to mention. We will have a Q&A session for this town hall. The mic that I'm holding is going to be... Can't hear me if I take the mic away. The mic that I'm holding is going to be the rolling mic. We're going to have 2 folks with microphones, and once we are ready for Q&A, they're going to raise their hands, and you'll be able to see them. We're going to try our best to save as much time for Q&A as possible. I do have a request, though. Is that okay? Yes. All right. When you do ask your question, can you be as efficient with your language as possible? We want to make sure that we get to everybody's question. That's the reason why I'm making that request. The next thing is, I have some things to mention. That's cool. We have some satellite offices and library office hours as well. So if you know someone who couldn't make it tonight, or they come by the office and they couldn't get an appointment, or whatever the case may be, or maybe our office is just too far away, we are at Bithlo. If you live in the Bithlo area, we have office hours in Bithlo. David, a wonderful constituent advocate who's raising his hand, he staffs that office for us in Bithlo, and the Congressman is also expanding our satellite offices across the county. We have a satellite office at UCF, Union Park, I just mentioned Bithlo, and Tangelo is coming as well. So you'll have an opportunity to engage with our office in different parts of the district. The last thing that I want to mention, or 2 last things I want to mention, we are at the libraries. The next time we'll be at a library will be February 27th at the South Trail Branch. February 27th at the South Trail Branch. So if you need assistance from our office and you need to talk to someone, we will be there for you specifically. Next up is March 3rd and Dr. Phillips, and then I think February 24th, I believe, at Fairview. If I've mentioned any of this information and you're like, that guy was up there talking and I didn't get anything, our constituent services table, which is to my left and probably to your right, has all of this information that is listed there. Okay, the last thing that I do want to mention is I want to give some thanks to our staff. Can I do that? All right, if you're a staff member for Congressman Frost, please come on up front. I see David, I see Jill, I see Kyle, I see Ariana, I see Sarah, I see Aaron, where's Kelsey? She's in the back. The reason that I'm mentioning them by name is because the work that they do on a daily basis, I get to see it up close and personal. I know that you all do not all the time. But there are probably people in this office or in this audience that our office has assisted. And I'm not asking you all to give them a round of applause because they get paid to do a job, right? It's more so, I see the work that they do every day. I saw the work that they did today to get prepared for this town hall. And we have another event tomorrow night if you guys want to come. It's going to be at the Heart for Black History Month. And we have other things that we're doing as well. Can we give a round of applause to the staff of Congressman Frost, please? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to get out of the way, unless you want to hear me riff for a little bit, but I don't think anybody wants to hear that. All right, so I'm going to bring up the man of the hour, the person that I am so proud to work for, the person that represents our district to his might on a daily basis in Washington, D.C., and here in Orlando, Florida. Please, y'all, join me. Give it up for Congressman Maxwell Frost!
Where I did my swearing-in ceremony. How many of you were there? Was anybody there? Yeah, what a great event. And I was just being reminded as I was driving in, we had, I remember I thought maybe like a couple hundred people would come out. We ended up having over 1,100 people event, and it was a beautiful event. My old jazz band from my high school came, they played, and it was just a lot of fun. So just a huge shout out to the amazing staff of this neighborhood center that do amazing work for the community here, and just thank you to everyone in the audience for taking the time every day to come. So I'm going to talk really quickly through some of our legislative activity for this year, some of the wins, some of the things we're proud of. I'm going to talk about the work that we've done in the district office, and then I want to spend most of the time just answering questions people have about really anything going on in DC. DC, hello, can you hear me? Oh, yeah. All right, DC or anywhere else. So, you know, the first thing is legislation. We have introduced 20 pieces of legislation this Congress, and about a fourth of those have been bipartisan, with about 416 co-sponsors. We're really proud of all that. You know, last Congress we were able to get through 2 of these bills through the House of Representatives, which is of course difficult in a Republican House. But I think, you know, the work of legislating is really important. At the end of the day, it's organizing. I remember when I was running for office and people were like, he's just an organizer, he's just an organizer. And then I get to Congress and I'm like sitting there learning the job, doing the work, and I go, this is organizing. I'm literally doing the same stuff I did on the streets of Orlando, on the streets of communities, but I'm doing it in the halls of Congress instead. But those same skills of working at bringing people together around a common shared value, whether it's signing onto my bill or coming to my press conference or signing onto my letter, are a lot of the same values. And so that's how we were able to get through a lot of legislation. It's how we were able to get the first Office of Gun Violence Prevention open at the White House, which helped us look at ways to end gun violence outside of the carceral system, right? Because if locking people up ended gun violence, we have zero gun violence in this country because we lock the most people up. So it's figuring out how do we create a community where people don't feel the need to use a gun to solve their problems. How do we get money to community-based organizations that work at identifying people who are most likely to shoot someone and identifying the people who are most likely to be shot and actually get money to community-based organizations. And we were able to do that here in Orlando. How many of you all seen the numbers recently that Orlando is one of the top cities in the country for reductions in gun violence? Well, yeah, it's amazing. And obviously, one life lost is too much. We have so much more work to do. But it doesn't just happen. You know, one of the best kept secrets in Orlando is the Orlando Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which does great work across our community. We want to work on making sure we can expand that to the county as well, so we can work at ending gun violence on the community level. We've also championed the arts in Congress as well. I introduced a bill called the Create Art Act. For those of you who don't know, I'm a drummer. Obviously something messed up happened because I went into politics instead. But being a musician and an artist has really been most of my life. I went to Osceola County School for the Arts for 7 years, and funny enough, I'm playing more drums now than I have since I graduated music school. And it's because when people started finding out I played the drums, now I go to events and there's always some sort of instrument there waiting for me to play for everyone. But the Create Art Act, you know, I wanted to think of ways we can have more equity in the arts. And believe it or not, the United States is the only major nation in the world without a federal grant program that goes directly to emerging independent artists, whether you're a musician or a filmmaker or really anything in the arts. And this is part of the reason why so many young artists get taken advantage of and why so many young artists who are trying to make their art their career go broke. trying to fund their own dreams. And I think it's time that America invests in American artists, because art is part of what makes this country what it is. And so we're really excited about that bill that we've introduced, and we're working at getting it through the House. We've also introduced bills to protect our environment, for affordable housing, like the End Junk Fees for Renters Act, and my other bill, which ends the use of credit scores as an end-all be-all in deciding whether or not you're going to be able to rent. Many of you know, boo credit scores. It's the get into debt score made by banks for banks that keep you in debt your entire life. And the fact of the matter is, we're getting to a place in this country, I'm asked a lot, what do you think is the issue that you worry about the most, especially for young people? And honestly, probably year to year, I give you a different answer. But my answer right now really has to do with the fact that I'm concerned that the young people in this country, 10, 20 years in the future, are just not going to have anything of their own that they own. And that's the way that this country is moving, because of the billionaires and corporations that run everything. They want us to be in a place where there's nothing you own, and you essentially rent and lease everything. From the house that you live in, to the car that you drive, to the phone that you have in your pocket, even the little things, so the music that you listen to, you don't own music anymore, to the movies that you watch, every little thing being something that you have to lease or rent. So that way, when people have to be bailed out, who does the government bail out? Those who have the keys to everything in this country. And it's scary. And I think working people should be able to own their things. And I'm very worried about this path that we're going down. And so the End Junk Fees for Renters Act, bills that we're introducing having to do with having more pathways to people being able to actually buy a home, to own the land that they're on, I think is so important, especially for working people in this country. When I first got into office in 2023, that summer, we assisted 400 constituents with their passport applications. And I learned very quickly that getting a passport office in Orlando is something that was really important. So many of you know, we really focused on that in our first term, and we were able to get it approved and work at delivering a passport agency in Orlando, which we're really excited about. There's only 5 in the entire country that have been added, which, like, if we went back in time and you told me that one of the things people would stop me in the street and thank me for was a passport office, I'd be like confused. But it ended up being a really hard project, and it's something that members of Congress have worked to deliver in Orlando for a long time, for decades, and it's really difficult. And so, because of the work that they did and the work that we did, we're really proud we were able to deliver that. Now, because the federal government just works so quickly, it's going to, it's not opening until summer of next year, but we're really excited about it. We'll keep people updated. In case you don't know, the reason why this is important, not to nerd out on passports, but right now in the state of Florida, we only have one passport agency. The 2 states that are have as many people, or more people than us, right? We're the top 3 states: New York, California, and Florida. New York and California each have 3 passport agencies, and an agency is where you can actually have your passport printed the same day. So there's hundreds of counters, which is where you can go to the library or the courthouse or wherever, and they take your picture, they get your information, and they send your application to an agency, and the agency actually prints it. There's only one place that actually prints it in the entire state of Florida, and it's in Miami. So as we're getting calls from people who are like, my loved one just passed away, I don't have a passport, I have to get to wherever, right? Another country in a week, but I don't have a passport. I can't wait the 4 to 6 weeks or 2 or 3 months to get it. I needed an appointment. What we do is we work at getting them an appointment at their closest office, which is Miami. And for a working person, they then have to take off of work, drive all the way to Miami. It's like an entire day, if not 2 days, that they have to take out of their life to get a passport. And that should be a lot easier. So we've made that case to the administration, and we're really excited that that's going to be coming to Central Florida next year in the summer. And it'll be at the old Social Security office over by the airport on what street is it? Gatlin, on Gatlin. So we'll keep everybody updated on that. Some of the other work that we've done, and I'm gonna save some of this for the questions, because I'm sure there's going to be questions about what's going on in DC and the authoritarian fascists in the White House. But What I will say is we're really proud that in this moment where there are so many legislators trying to find their footing, right, and figuring out what is our role in this moment. I'm very proud of the work that my team and I have done, whether it comes down to the Everglades Detention Facility, Alligator Alcatraz, leading visits there, working working with local organizations to temporarily get it shut down, and still working on that now. Pushing DHS negotiations to include funding restrictions to ICE and add guardrails to protect our people. Co-sponsoring the War Powers Resolution, introducing NDAA amendment to prohibit Trump's unlawful military operations in Greenland, Iran, Venezuela, and more. Led congressional letters to the Department of Housing and Urban Development to oppose plans to build homeless detention camps in Utah and across the entire country. And most recently, Representative Ayanna Pressley and I led a discharge petition to force a vote to extend temporary protective status for Haitians in the United States as well, that we're very proud of. And actually, just a few days ago, we learned that we got our second Republican to sign on to it, which means now we just need to get all the Democrats to sign on, and we're getting our way there. And so we're really proud of that. And what that does is it forces a vote on the issue on the House floor, which is what we did a few months ago with the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies. So we're really excited about some of the work that we have going on in Washington, D.C. I won't go through all the bills we've introduced because there's 20 of them, but I'm sure they'll come up during the question and answer session. Let me talk a little bit about our community project funding. So this used to be called earmarks way back when, and it's how members of Congress can utilize big vehicles of money in the federal government to help very specific projects in their home. So a lot of times this would have to do with a park or just different things like that. And we really wanted to figure out ways that we could use this money to help with our big policy goals, right? Housing, transportation, the environment, homeless services, etc. So I'm going to read off some of the projects we were able to get this time around that we're very excited about. Number one is with the City of Orlando. We just secured $3 million for the Coalition for the Homeless Women and Families Homeless Shelter. We're very excited about that. Tomorrow morning, I will be at a press conference announcing the $750,000 we got for iDignity at their new operation headquarters. $850,000 for the Innovation Center in Pine Hills, $850,000 for a bus shelter program so we can up the quality of bus shelters across the district, $500,000 for bus acquisition. We have money, $1.2 million for the Orlando Housing Authority for roof replacement at West Oaks, Winter Park Housing Authority, Valencia College, Green Place land acquisition, villas at Carver Park upgrades, Griffin Park improvements, Aquaforce storage and injection feasibility, Lake Eola improvements, and the new Malibu stormwater management program, which is going to be really important. Stormwater management, especially in our community, and the climate crisis increasing and us seeing more and more hurricanes that create more and more destruction in our communities. It is important we have more and more resources for stormwater management. So we're really proud of all that. And I also want to give a quick shout out to two elected officials we have in the room. The first one is our City Commissioner, Bakari Burns. Thanks for having us here. I really appreciate it. And a lot of these projects wouldn't be possible without our partnership with Bakari and his office, and I really appreciate your partnership in bringing back this money for the community. And then another person we have here as well is the mayor of the historic town of Eatonville, Mayor Angie Gardner. And I appreciate your partnership as well. We're very excited. I think it was $4 million that we got to help Eatonville with affordable housing in the last round. We would not have been able to do that without you, your team, the work that you do. So just thank you so much. Sorry, I forget the number sometimes. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I just appreciate all of our partnerships that we have with elected officials here. The last two things I want to speak about before I open it up for questions is, number one, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I know. Well, you know what's crazy? I was leading debate the other day, and the Republicans kept they kept saying the name of the bill. They kept bringing up the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, is what they kept saying. And I was like, I've never heard of that. I asked my staff, I was like, what is this? I never heard, did we vote on that? It sounds good, like Working Families Tax Cut Bill. And we've never voted on it. And what happened is, like late last year, Donald Trump came to the House of Representatives, and he was like, hey, the polling on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is really bad. Nearly 70% of all Americans know that it's the largest transfer of wealth from the working class and the working poor to the billionaires and mega corporations in the history of our country. And gave ICE more money than the Marine Corps has. And so people they don't like it anymore. So here's my idea. I'm just Trump, by the way. My acting's great. Here's my idea. Let's rebrand and let's change the name of it. And so they decided to change the name of the bill, and now they're calling it the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, which I called out in that moment. It was in that video. And so now, I used to call it like the One Big Betrayal Bill, or the One Big, there's a lot of other ones with curse words in it, But now I'm calling it the One Big Beautiful Bill because they obviously don't want us to say that name anymore. And it just goes to show you how horrible the bill is, that they've changed the name of a bill that they literally put the word beautiful in. I mean, the word beautiful is in it. And it's so bad for working people that they have to change the name. And so this bill is the single largest cut of healthcare in the nation's history, ripping healthcare away from 14 million people through the cuts from Medicaid, and makes the largest cut to food assistance in the history of our country, taking away SNAP, free school meals away from millions of children, takes away clean energy incentives. Over 4 million students, 2/3 of them who are current Pell recipients, will have their Pell grants eliminated or reduced. I could go on and on and on. I mean, this bill is one of the worst bills ever passed in the history of our nation. And all of that was to give a massive tax for two reasons. One is to give a massive tax giveaway to billionaires and corporations. And then the other one was to give all the money that they took, that they used for healthcare that they took away from us, to ICE and DHS to go and terrorize our communities, as we're seeing across the country right now. And even that, one of the whole reasons for that isn't just because they're deeply bigoted, but that money's also going to corporations. I mean, I gotta tell you, when I went to Alligator Alcatraz for the first time, I remember being driven in and seeing all these private planes on the tarmac. And I was like, whose planes are those? Are they like state planes or something like that? They said, no, those belong to the executives of the corporations running the place. So all this money that's going towards ICE and CBP, a huge chunk of that, most of it, is also going to enrich corporations and billionaires. So all of this is so deeply connected. The last thing I want to talk about, actually the last two things, I lied. The last two things I want to talk about before I open it up for questions. One has to do with, earlier last year I was asked by our leadership on the Oversight Committee to serve on a team that would be investigating Jeffrey Epstein. And I said yes because I felt it was very important for me to be a part of it. And now being on the Epstein investigation team takes up a lot of my time, a lot of my emotional bandwidth, but I think it's one of the most important things that I'm doing right now that I'm a part of right now. Because this isn't about political parties, but it's about the fact, and something we all know to be true, that there are very, very, very wealthy people in this country, and elite people in this country who have evaded justice for decades and decades and decades and decades. And so I'm just very proud to be a part of this team that it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, we don't give a damn. If you're a part of this, we're seeking justice, not just for the survivors, but real justice and making sure it never happens again. And this was a cover-up of massive proportions. And I'm just so thankful to people around the country that I don't even know that are deeply invested in this, that have helped us. You know, when we were given word that we would be able to see the unredacted files, I took to Reddit and asked people, what do you think I should see? You know, the million documents, which by the way, roughly 50% of the Epstein files are still not released. And Pam Bondi says that they're either privileged or part of an open investigation, all BS. And that's an impeachable offense in and of itself, but that's another conversation, or same conversation, but later. And we received literally thousands of recommendations. And so I went last week for about 2 hours and change to go through the documents, and I'm going to be going back this next week as well, because I wasn't even able to get to the Reddit suggestions because there's just so much. And then we find out that they were spying on us the entire time. And I gotta tell you this, guys, and again, look, people in here of all different political persuasions, that doesn't matter. But tell me this, if you're not hiding something, why do you have to spy on members of Congress doing oversight? And it's not even just the spying. It's the fact that they came armed with the information they got from spying on us to throw it back in our faces in an oversight committee hearing. Because in case you didn't hear, the whole way we found out that they were spying on us was because in the hearing where Pam Bondi is, and we have these hearings so we can hold people accountable, right? That's the whole purpose of these. Pam Bondi had this, essentially like a burn book, a binder full of things, and when Pramila Jayapal was questioning her, a photographer was able to catch, you know, a little glimpse of a page she had in there, which was labeled Pramila Jayapal Epstein Files Search History, and had all of her search history in there. That's the only reason we know, not because anyone told us. And so either way, I'm sure might be questions on that as well, but that is an investigation I'm very proud to be a part of. And actually in just a few weeks, or in about a month or so, we have a lot of the Oversight Committee will be coming here, and we'll be hosting a public hearing over very close to Mar-a-Lago about the Epstein files, and so we'll keep everyone updated on that. Last thing I want to bring up, which is not spoken about a lot, is our casework. And no matter what's going on in DC, this is some of the most important work that we do. The calls that we get to office, a lot of people don't know this. We have an entire casework team that helps people work through the federal government. And the work that we do really can change lives and helps people. From Social Security, veterans benefits, Medicare, passports, immigration, which has been our biggest one lately, of course. We're just really proud of that. We've been able to return over $12 million back into the pockets of our constituents. And to be clear, that's different. Like federal money, bringing back federal money to the district, that's hundreds of millions of dollars. We're talking, this is $12 million like directly to you. You had a tax return you hadn't gotten back in years. We advocate on your behalf and we get that back to you. Maybe you've been not getting as much as you're supposed to get in your Social Security check. We advocate on your behalf and we get you your back pay. And that's something that is some of the most important work that we do. They step in and advocate for folks. In terms of the terrorizing of our immigrant communities from ICE, we get those calls. We work with families to find out where their loved one is being held. In many cases, we've literally, myself and my staff, have gone to the jail to grab their things to help deliver it back to the family. So this is the day-to-day work that you don't hear about a lot on the news, but at the end of the day, with a lot of what we're seeing from this government, there's the big macro work we're doing at stopping it, but then there's the work that's day-to-day. Person to person, immigrant to immigrant, helping to make sure that families are able to get through what's going on, because the story doesn't end after they've been detained. The story doesn't end there. There's a lot more that needs to be done in making sure they're connected with immigration lawyers, working with local advocacy groups, and we're just really proud to be very, very tightly connected with the local organizing apparatus, because we're all working together to help people in this moment. And so I'm just very proud of our whole team for being here. If you need help, let us know. Like was mentioned, we have satellite offices in Bithlo, UCF. We also have neighborhood offices over at UCF, Maitland, Union Park, Pine Hills, and more. And so without further ado, we're going to head into the Q&A part. So, So, oh, my bad. All right. So, just raise your hand, and someone from our team will come up to you with the mic and let you ask your question. The one thing, let me give my usual disclaimer here. This is an official event planned by my official office, not my campaign. And so there are very strict rules preventing me from, campaigning at our official events. So if you ask me a question about campaigns or winning elections and things like that, you probably will receive a little bit of a non-answer. You can ask anything you want, but I'm just letting you know, some of the rules, and not everyone sticks to them, but I do, because, the rules are not applied evenly. So, without further ado, if you could raise your hand. Do we have someone selected? Oh, cool. I'm gonna try to get to everybody.
Congressman Frost, I'm on Medicaid through Florida's iBudget waiver, and it's the reason I can live at home instead of being forced into an institution. Back in 2011, when Rick Scott was governor, people with disabilities were told to sacrifice our services because of budget cuts. That word sacrifice came straight from the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. This time, Republicans are taking almost $1 trillion from Medicaid, which is the largest cut in the program's history. I asked Congressman who voted for it and conveniently scored himself a mega tax break in the process, whether Floridians, like me, will be expected again to sacrifice the disability services that we need to survive, just because of his vote. He pivoted to Medicaid fraud. Respectfully, fraud isn't my home health care aid. Fraud isn't my wheelchair. And fraud isn't the services that keep me out of an institution at 22 years old. So beyond showing up to vote on November 3rd, what can we actually do to make sure the people who need Medicaid to survive don't become collateral damage just so rich people can enjoy a bigger tax cut?
Thank you.
Because our whole lives shouldn't get dismantled just to benefit a billionaire like Donald Trump.
100. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. And thank you for your advocacy and the fact that you show up everywhere. And I know you're not just advocating for yourself. You're advocating for an entire community, really all of us. And we know that the way that this state has treated people with disabilities is very uniquely disgusting. But also, Jay, you brought up is 100% true as it relates to these cuts to Medicaid that were passed in the big beautiful bill. And it impacts all of us because it impacts many of us. You might not all be people on Medicaid, but when one of our neighbors comes to a town hall and brings up a question like this because they've been told that they have to sacrifice, this nation, time and time again, when it needs to bail out the auto industry, it bails out the auto industry. What about bailing out our folks with disabilities? When it needs to bail out banks, what does it do? Bail out the banks. What about the bailout for working people? When it needs to bail out Wall Street, what has the nation done? Bail out Wall Street. And I think it just shows, if you want to know the character of a nation, look at the budget. Look at where the money goes. This country and Congress, I didn't vote for it, but just passed for the first time a military budget that goes over $1 trillion, where 75% of it will go to contractors. This is the problem that we have, is there's an absence of prioritizing our people, and an absence of seeing the world through the eyes of the most vulnerable. which if we did that and we wrote our policy that way, we all benefit from it. And so to answer your question, of course, I'm glad you brought up voting in the midterm, which is so important to make sure that we can actually put a check on the administration and the House of Representatives and hopefully the Senate. But I gotta tell you, a big part of this is the advocacy we all do now. Because we don't know what's gonna happen in November. And I wanna take back the House. I feel pretty confident about it. But I gotta tell you guys, my entire first term in Congress, the whole time people would come up to me and say, well, it's okay, it'll be a lot better next term when we're in the majority. Like saying it as a matter of fact. Saying it as a matter of fact. And guess what? It's next term. It didn't happen. In fact, everything got way worse. And I think a lot of times, and not to get too partisan, but like, you know, to think about my party, is I think a lot of times we get a little too confident. And it's not just that people hate him means they'll vote for us. We have to give people something to vote for. And one of the other issues is usually Democrats, not everyone here, but Democrats wait until they get into power to figure out what they want to use the power for. That's another problem, because by then it's too late. Project 2025 was that guidebook for them. And when they got in power, what they do? They executed. So the debate about what we do when we're in power doesn't happen after Election Day. It actually happens now. In the candidates that we push forward, of course, in our elections, and what we demand of our legislators at town halls, at protests, at direct action events across the entire country, that helps morph the entire conversation. Because the problem too, JJ, is that there are a lot of people who are saying, we need to win the election so we can undo what Trump did. That's part of the problem. See, when they take away healthcare and gut Medicaid by $1 trillion and take away healthcare from 14 million people, the rebuttal to that isn't give us the power so we can get it back to those 14 million people, because in all honesty, it was broken before too. But is we want the power so we can get it to everybody, so it can work for everybody. That healthcare is a human right, that it doesn't matter who you are or what disabilities you have, you deserve to be healthy in this country and not be on long waiting lists in this state, and not be told that you have to sacrifice. And that's why it's not just vote, but it's vote and protest. Vote and. Right, I know people feel like writing letters and making calls doesn't matter. I promise you, it does. It does. It's a direct action. It's all these things together. And it's also speaking to people at the federal level, but also local elected officials, people at the state level as well. Because a lot of the impacts here are because of decisions that have been made in Tallahassee for a long, long time. And not to get into the campaign world, but we have a lot of opportunities here in Central Florida to break supermajorities, and I think it's really important that we keep that in mind. So I really appreciate the question, and it's always great seeing you everywhere. Thank you.
Hi, Congressman Frost. My name is Ava. I do want to mention first that first question was really moving and hard to follow, and I think the person who asked it. For my question, I'm wondering how the Democrats in DC, what our strategy kind of is for ensuring that the bills that want to restrict voting rights don't pass. What are we trying to do for that? Thank you.
It's a really good question. Especially, how many of you have heard of the SAVE Act? Okay. Well, now it's the Save America Act. This is a horrible, horrible piece of legislation, which is obviously, it's one of the largest voter suppression laws in the entire country. Which, by the way, if your vote didn't matter for real, they wouldn't be trying to pass the Save America Act. The whole purpose of trying to pass it is because they know what's coming down the pipeline, not just at the federal level, but down ballot as well. And that's an existential threat to their project of authoritarian fascism in this country, and that's why they're pushing the SAVE Act. So I'll say two things. One is where it's at, to give you guys kind of a little update where that bill is at, and then two, what we're doing about it. So the bill, for people who don't know, this is the third time it's passed the House. So we voted on it early last year when it was just the SAVE Act. And then we voted on it last Congress when it was also just the SAVE Act. And both of those times, it didn't really get through the Senate. What's going on right now is about a week ago, they actually didn't have the votes to pass it with a simple majority. Susan Collins, moderate, came out a couple days ago and said she would vote yes on it. So now they do have the ability to pass it with a simple majority. However, the Democrats have said, and this is getting into what we're doing about it, that they will use the filibuster to block it from being passed, which means it actually needs 60 votes to pass. Now, if we stop there, that's the end of the story. The bill will die and will not be signed into law this Congress. However, it's not really the end of the story because there's a huge pressure campaign from people on the far, far right to tell the leader of the Senate, Republican John Thune, to do a filibuster carve-out to pass the bill and pass it into law. He has said he's not going to do that. That's what he has said. But the president hasn't really gotten involved in the pressure campaign as much yet, and this is part of the reason why, and I was answering James' question here, this is part of the reason why our own pressure campaigns on the grassroots side and reaching out to members of Congress, senators, through protests, letters, calls, everything that we can do, just like overwhelming force, is one of the most important things we can do right now. And there's actually a list of targeted senators that we think are the people to reach out to, and a lot of them are these like moderates in hard races right now. We have to make sure that they know from their constituents that if you vote yes on this, you're going to be held accountable. And that kind of pressure will hopefully counteract Trump's pressure in the far, far right. So it's hard for me to tell you how optimistic I am on this right now, but it's far from over. We have tools in our toolbox to fight against it. We're using them. And right now, everyone should keep an eye out. There are massive campaigns popping up across the country on the Save America Act. And so we need everyone to get involved if you can. And we'll keep everyone updated on the voting rights question. The second, well, another thing I want to bring up that's really important is something that's worried me is, and you know it's crazy because this is actually literally an episode of House of Cards. But something that's really worried me is the president dispatching ICE to polling sites, which literally happened in the show. The president in the show sends the National Guard to polling sites to scare people out from voting. That's the reason he did it. And so this is something I brought up a while ago in the Democratic caucus to figure out what can we do around this early. Because the problem is if you wait till he says it, sometimes it's too late. And you have to really figure out what you're going to do beforehand. So part of this battle that we're in on the DHS funding, and the reason DHS is currently shut down, obviously Democrats voted no on funding to ICE for many reasons, but on the list of things that have been given to Trump on how he could potentially get a couple votes from some Democrats, that it won't be me really no matter what, because I don't think it should exist. But one of them is protect ICE and DHS not allowed in sensitive locations. And at first this was just houses of worship, hospitals, and schools, but we were able to add in polling locations as well, which I think is really important. So we'll keep everyone updated on that. Those negotiations are ongoing, so thank you.
My question is about housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Disability Social Security.
Is the mic on?
No,
Sorry. I have to click it. Oh, it's on. Okay.
Okay. Elder Congress. My question is how 3 times, even 2.5 times income does not allow our seniors and disability people to move location. The rent is still rising. What is going to be done? What can we do to assist and put pressure in Orlando? Because Orlando, Florida has one of the highest rents.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yeah, and over the last several years, our region has had some of the highest increases in rents in the entire nation. And so, I'm always trying to make my answer shorter, but I can talk about housing for a long time. So, This is actually something that impacted me when I many of you know, I experienced housing troubles here in Orlando, and then when I won my election, I was like, well, at least I'm good now. And then I went to DC, and I got denied all the apartments I applied to, and I literally couldn't find a place to live. And the reason was because my credit wasn't great, and you need first, last, deposit, junk fees, all these other stuff that add up. That is essentially a form of redlining, keeping people from being able to and granted, we're talking about giving people the opportunity to pay the high rent. And so the entire thing, the housing crisis is huge right now. And I'll give you an example, even at UCF, we opened up our satellite office. I thought most of the young people coming to speak to us, they would ask questions about student debt cancellation and like social issues, different things like that. But you know what our top 2 issues were? I'm hungry and I don't have money to eat, and I don't have a place to live. Housing insecurity and food insecurity. Those are like the top 2 things UCF students at our satellite office come to us to ask us for help on. So this is an issue that impacts everyone, from seniors to families to young people. And there's a lot of things we need to do. So
we voted in rent stabilization in 22. I'm so sorry for the jump.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, rent stabilization was on the ballot for us, which granted isn't even rent control, right? It's the stabilize, right? It's the pause so we can like catch our breath and try to get this together. And of course, it was passed here in Central Florida. We passed it pretty decisively. And then what happened? The state legislature, which is completely bought and paid for by corporate interest, was pushed to put through this bill that they put some good things in, but had a lot of bad things in it too. And within it, they put a preemption, which means they said states, local municipalities and counties can't do it, and so they preempted what we voted for. Completely took away our voice, our democracy that we voted for. And why did we vote for it? Because it's an issue. And we knew this would help give us time to figure out what the solution was, right? This wasn't rent stabilization wasn't the solution. It was a pause so our people stopped getting evicted so we can figure out the solution. And so no, I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's so important for people to know that we all made our voices heard on this not too long ago, and Tallahassee completely preempted it. So we have to figure out ways. We still got to work at the state. We can't cede any ground. But we have to figure out other ways that we can do work. That's part of the reason I've tried to use a lot of my community project funding requests that are usually in Congress used for parks and stuff like that. Very important, but we figured out ways to utilize it for housing and for a lot of the issues we care about, given the housing crisis that we're in Central Florida. The other thing is we've been bringing back a lot of money for our homeless services organization, which isn't just about it's about shelter beds, but it's also about transitional housing. It's about permanent supportive housing. It's about figuring out how do we give people pathways to being housed, which is really important as well. And our local, continuum of care, which is the group of organizations that do this work for our homeless folks, they need help and they need more funding too. And so if anyone's here, if you're able to volunteer, please do. Something I do every year, because I think it's important for elected officials to see the problem right in front of you and not just read about it, is I do our local point in time count, which is the way that our government, it's kind of crazy, the way that our government counts homeless people in this country, unsheltered homeless people in this country, and the way we get that data and appropriate money for the services is it's literally teams of volunteers that go out with an app on their phone and have conversations with people and count them. And it's about a 3-day period in which this happens. Those numbers are sent to the federal government, and that's how the federal government gives us the numbers of how many homeless people there are in this country. So obviously I don't need to tell you that the numbers we do have are severely underrepresent the problem. And the other thing we have to realize is being homeless isn't just being on the street. Those people on the street are unsheltered. So most homeless people, and houseless people, are not on the street. They're living in their car. They're on a friend's couch. They're in the hotel. That's what a lot of homelessness looks like. And in fact, Young homeless people, most of them are not even on the streets. Most of them are on the couch, in the car, and different things like that. So those numbers are even severely undercounted as well. So this is why we've introduced these bills that we're trying to get passed. The End Drug Fees for Renter Act, I think, is so important because at the end of the day, what you mentioned is true, having the money to get in there. But the other problem is, how many of you have, been on Zillow or True or whatever, you've seen a rent, you're like, okay, I think I can make that work. You click it, you do the showing, you're about to sign it, and you find out there's a bunch of fees that add a few $100s extra on your rent, or maybe $50 extra on your rent. Anybody? Anybody have any fees that are like dog fee, lawn fee, trash fee, pool fee, breathing fee, being alive fee? Any show of hands? Who has these fees? Okay, thank you. See? I moved into an apartment 2 years ago, here in Orlando, and I literally, as I'm about to sign, I read on the top, and it's like, oh, I also have to apply to the HOA every year, $150 per person in the household. So it's things like that. So what my bill does is it eliminates junk fees, which, by the way, I have some people come up and say, Maxwell, what about mom and pop landlords? What about people who own 1 or 2 properties? Well, here's the thing. Number one, the number shows that mom and pop landlords usually don't even charge junk fees. It's usually these big apartment complexes and different things like that. The second thing is, if you have to charge it, oh God, the trash won't get picking up if you don't do the trash fee. Just lump it in the rent. So that way when we're looking, we all have knowledge, right? And we have more power in the marketplace because we know what's happening. And the ways all these corporations have been able to kind of sneak up on us in this way is by taking away our power out of the marketplace. It's the same thing's happening in ticketing for live events. The same thing happens in hotels. The same thing's happening with airlines. And I'm not saying it solves the whole problem, but bills like this I think will help us get to a much better place. And so that's why, so we have the bills at the national level, we're bringing back money here to help with the local level as well. And if you guys are able to, please help out our local homeless services because the need is great. Every time the rent goes up $100 in this country, homelessness goes up 9%. Homelessness is a housing problem. These things are connected. Thank you for the question, I appreciate it. Hey.
Good evening, Congressman Frost. Good evening, Congressman Frost. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Logan Wakefield, and I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit more local to the community. I attend St. George Orthodox Church, and on the same level of homelessness, we do serve the homeless community quite frequently.
Thank you.
I'm working with St. George Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which is a historical landmark in downtown Orlando. It's right next to Lake Eola. I've already spoken with your staff about preservation and repair needs. The church is in desperate needs of repairs. We've currently spoken and we're currently working with contractors to define scope and funding with formal records requests. My question for you is that as we prepare the project, what programs or agencies should we be engaging now to support the proper position with the appropriations window open later this year? And my follow-up question for you would be, would your office recommend specific staff to contact to coordinate this effort? And thank you and God bless.
Yeah, thank you, man. What's the name of the church?
St. George. St. George Orthodox Church, and I would welcome you to attend or to come to this.
Oh yeah, I'd love to come. Okay, I want to be careful on rattling off specific funding sources because there's just a lot of requirements and quality, and I just want to make sure I give you the right ones. What I will say is, who from the staff can chat with him after? Okay, we'll make sure someone speaks to you, either Sarah or Jason will get with you so we can kind of hear about it and see if there are any federal funding sources that might make sense. There's also, as it relates to historical buildings and things like that, sometimes it's good to seek like the historical designation that you can sometimes get from the state government or the federal government, and a lot of times that opens you up to other funding and even like private funding and foundation funding and things like that. Yeah.
It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Oh, great. Okay, great. So we'll get with you. Someone from our team will get with you to chat with you about the specific situation. Thank you. Hey, good to see you.
Yeah. All right,
so my question, I want to go back to the SAVE Act. So is there anything the Democratic Party is doing to help protect those poll taxes that they're wanting us to get, like the passport and our birth certificate, to make sure that they stay valid? So those of us, which majority of the Democratic Party probably owns some sort of birth certificate or passport versus their party in the rural areas do not have that. What is there to protect us from going and change and make it happen?
And so people know part of this, thank you for the question. So people know like part of this bill, which is arguably one of the worst parts of it, would make it so that when you register to vote, you can't use even your driver's license. You will have to use a birth certificate, something like that, which if I said, hey, I have $500 here, produce your birth certificate in 12 hours, it would be hard for a lot of people. And that's the whole point, is the whole point of this is to make it harder to vote because they have less people, they want less people voting. I mean, that's just exactly what's going on. So because this is part of the SAVE Act, kind of my answer to the person who asked that question earlier, it's pretty, kind of the same answer, right? Is that it's being halted in the Senate. We're going to be putting pressure on a lot of these Republican legislators who we think there is a really good opportunity for them to come over to our side. Believe it or not, guys, Trump's grip on Congress is loosening a bit. And more Republican members of Congress, not enough, but more and more Republican members of Congress are voting against him because, and by the way, it's not because they woke up one day and said, let me do the right thing. It's because they're getting polling back in their seats and they're seeing, oh, right now I voted with Trump 99% of the time. If I vote against him 10 times, that number will go to 90, and that's better for the ads. Like, that's literally what's going through people's minds, not to be pessimistic, but that is what's going through people's minds. And so because of this, there's actually more and more opportunity where protests and pressure can actually work, especially if it's targeted in the districts. So that's a lot of the work that's going on with that. The other thing that I want to highlight, and this isn't at the federal level, but at the state level, we're seeing a lot of states, Democratic states, and even ones that are pretty evenly split, taking action to counteract what Trump is trying to do to voter laws across the country. Because remember, guys, the federal government doesn't run elections, states do. And this is I always have to talk about this in these things, and I think it's really important. Never forget that Donald Trump is a liar. So, the reason I say this is just because he comes to a mic and says, I'm doing this, doesn't mean it's going to happen. And the reason I say this is I'm not trying to tell people to calm down. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to say this to empower you so you know he knows it's BS, right? So he came and said, I'm going to outlaw vote by mail. And everyone was like, oh my God. I said that too. And then he said, I'm going to sign an executive order that's going to eliminate vote by mail. And everyone's, oh my God. Then he goes and he signs the executive order. And I asked my team to send it to me. Let me read it. And when you read it, it's very interesting because this is me paraphrasing. It says, I am directing this agency to begin the process of looking at how to possibly take away vote by mail. Interestingly enough, a lot of these things he said he's going to do, the executive orders are very similar. And then what happens? Time passes. He does a lot of other horrible, illegal things. A lot of them actually happen, some of them don't. And then you look back and you're like, wait, what happened to that thing? And again, I want to be careful here because I'm not trying to tell people to not take him seriously. I'm not trying to tell people to calm down. What I'm reminding us is that authoritarians and fascists throughout all of human history, most of their power actually does not even come from actually passing laws. It comes from their rhetoric, and it comes from pushing people to obey in advance. And when the opposition believes that you have power that you actually don't have, guess what? Now they actually do have that power. And so I just remind us all of this, and it's literally throughout all of history, all authoritarians, they're never great legislators. They're never put things in the law that last a long time. But it's always the way they speak, the way they scare people, and the way they push people to do stuff before a single law is passed. I remember early last year, remember Target, everyone's taking away the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. All this is going on. You'd think a law was passed. You'd think a law was passed to outlaw diversity, equity, and inclusion. Guess what? Not a single one has been passed. There have been no laws passed. It's people obeying, corporations obeying in advance because they don't want to hurt their bottom line. So that's, so that's the other thing I'd say. This is just so people know. But those are some of the things we're doing. So it's just balancing act. Take it seriously enough to actually figure out what we're going to do to fight against it and actually fight against it. But at the same time, we'll remember that this guy's trying to exert power he doesn't have. And he's throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Sometimes he'll be successful, sometimes he won't. And with us fighting back, that's why I think we have to just engage in every fight. Some Democrats disagree with me. We'll win some, we'll lose some. But if we don't get into it, he will win. Point blank. So, okay. More questions? Oh, sorry, let me know. People are picking from me.
Good evening, Representative Frost. My name is Khalil. I'm just asking something in regards to the economics of the region. I was born here and I'm still here. And so I noticed a lot of people have left due to the fact that a lot of them are pursuing jobs in other places. I know Central Florida has been predominantly developed more by corporate entities like Disney, Universal, the major shipping magnates in the south and those on the east and west. But I was just wondering if there's more of initiative to kind of create more individual protections from the corporate entities to allow for more jobs that, let's say, are not necessarily corporate.
Yeah.
It's like for me, if I don't have my degree, I'm working in hospitality, and if I don't want to work in hospitality, I don't really have many other options.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of feeds into like the cost of living issues that plague the area. So mainly just what, let's say, independent or small business assistance resources out there, and if there's any goal to expand those.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and it is. I mean, we know, just for many generations, young people will say it's really hard right now, and people will say it's always hard to be a young person. But I gotta tell everyone here, the numbers show us that it is right now uniquely hard, the hardest it's ever been in our nation's history, to be a young person and build wealth and be able to pay your bills. Right now, our nation is at the lowest point in our country's history of the ability for college graduates to find full-time work after they graduate college. Don't just take it from, I hear it from literally all my friends that I went to school with who are now literally 4 or 5 years out of college and have not been able to piece it together. It's not because of them. I say this all the time, you heard it in my thing, not because they've been denied, because they've lived beyond their means, they've been denied the means to live. And part of the problem is the job market's falling apart because of what Donald Trump is doing. And one of the worst things this guy has done is he went in and completely eviscerated the ability to hold corporations accountable and break up corporate monopolies. Big Beautiful Act, part of what it did is rip away 70% of the funding from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They also completely directed the FTC, which would lead a lot of these lawsuits to break up corporate monopolies, and essentially directed them to just drop all their cases. Same thing with the DOJ Antitrust Division. And these are the people, and this is the funny thing to me, is these are the people who purport to be of the free market and capitalism and this and that. But they want, and are obviously fine with, this 0.1% of corporations owning everything, which makes it so that way people can't start a business, or people can't get access to capital. And so I think, honestly, one of the most important things we can do to help small businesses is rev up like never seen before our antitrust work, breaking up corporate monopolies at all levels, because small businesses hire 50% of our people. And obviously, most of the time they're the ones treating people in a better way. And it's the same thing in our community as well. So that's one thing. And the second thing is we do need to have more access to capital for people who have an idea and entrepreneurs who want to start a business. Because part of the reason we've seen so many small businesses fail, especially since COVID, is because they've been denied those means. corporations have the resources to weather storms, okay? And that's why they were able to weather the storms, and that's why post-COVID, we've seen countless numbers of small businesses close across the entire country. Oh, and if your business had to do with the arts, good luck. You're in a worse position. That's why we've seen so many music venues close as well. So we can talk about it for a long time. Those are the few things. All right. Yes.
Good evening, Congressman Frost. My name is Franklin Ball, and I want to the only way to even prevail is if good men and women do nothing. What can we do at the grassroots level that's actually meaningful?
Yeah, no, thank you for your question. I've talked a little bit about ways that you can impact the legislators, which I do think is important. I know sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter. It does matter. It is important. But the thing I always tell people, is, especially at the beginning of the year, I got to travel the country and people would ask me, what can I do? And what I would always tell them is, I can rattle off a bunch of tactics to you right now. But I think what's most important is, I think it's important that if you can, find an organization or a collective here locally that's organizing around an issue that you care about and go all in. Because that fellowship and that organizing, I can tell you what you can do, but they can tell you what you can do every day. And I think that's so important. I don't know if I usually like to try to let people shout out organizations. We have any organizations represented here. Of course, my disclaimer is I have not vetted any of this. But anybody here part of an organization, just say the name of it. Okay, thank you.
Sierra Club.
Move on, Sierra Club. Promise, anybody else?
Third Act.
Florida College Democrats.
Men for Choice, love them. Progressive Democrats of America.
Moms Demand Action.
Moms Demand Action for my mom.
Orlando, 5051.
So did you have your hand up? Oh, did you? Oh. Anybody else? So those are some, yes. So look, even in this room, that was like 10 organizations. And if you send the name of an organization, raise your hand if you need help right now. If you need volunteers. Boom, there we go. So my suggestion would be, before you walk out of this room, can you guys raise your hand again? Connect with some of these people, ask them what you can do to help. They'll give you marching orders because they really need help on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's really important. If everyone did that, we'd be in a much better spot. All right. We have more questions? Do we have, it's still 8, right? We gotta be out by 8. All right. Let me do like 2 more real quick. I'm gonna give quick questions. And if, I'm sorry, Grand Avenue, I will billets of the car burns. No, I'm joking. Okay, I just want to try to get 2 more. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Congressman Frost. My name is Barbara. I'm 42 years old, a wife and a mom. I immigrated to this country years ago. This is where I built my life, where I invest, where I work, like everyone else. And because of that, I want to ask you, what should immigrant families like mine realistically expect in the coming months regarding arts enforcement here in Florida?
Thank you. I really appreciate the question, and thank you for coming to ask this. So, we have been working at compiling, we've been on like a fact-finding mission over the last several weeks because there's a lot of misinformation and rumors in the community about different things going on, and rightfully so, because no one knows what's going on because of the terrorizing of ICE in our communities. We've heard of warehouses, we've heard of, there was an increase in ICE presence a few weeks ago. You know, the question is it gonna, how long is it gonna continue? Is it gonna balloon? Are we gonna see what happened in Minneapolis happen here? Let me give you guys my opinion, and I was actually just on the phone with Felipe about this earlier, which I think is really important. Interestingly enough, I do not believe that the things we've seen kind of in Minneapolis are going to happen here in that way. What I do believe, though, and what we know to be true, is we still have one of the top 10 detention and detainment numbers in the entire country. And the reason why is because the governor has essentially deputized and pushed like local and state law enforcement to also act as ICE. And it's part of the reason why like 75 to 80% of ICE detainments are actually not ICE officers themselves in the state of Florida. It's state patrols, it's people who are being pulled over in their cars, and then people who are being sent to detention facilities. Oh yeah, can I get that? And that's what it looks like in Florida. And the reason I bring this up is because it has to impact our organizing and the work that we do, because it's going to be a little different. There won't be exact lines in the sand. Go to, there's an army of ICE here. We're going here to do a protest, right? Like we see in a lot of other places. It's a lot more scattered. It's a lot more surgical, and it's a lot more specific. But the impact is still there. In fact, one of the greatest impacts in the entire country, some of the most detentions in the entire country. So I think it's something that has to inform the organizing and the work that we do on protecting our neighbors. And there's a few things people can do. Number one, I know community centers are doing a lot of great work on making sure people know their rights. This is really important. They don't want people to know their rights, because if you don't know your rights, you don't know when they're being taken away. And that prevents people from entering into the type of litigation, which is actually, and they don't want you to know this, but in many instances has actually drastically changed things and helped get people out of bad situations. If you don't know your rights, you don't know when they're being taken away, you don't know that you can videotape those interactions. And when the interaction is videotaped, your chances of winning in court goes up exponentially. And it's so important. So we've created, and we have a bunch here at the table, Know Your Rights cards that actually have a rip out at the bottom that have my office's information where you can report sightings, where you can report interactions that you've had. We have these in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. Felipe with Hope Community, you can raise your hand so people can see you. They're also organizing Know Your Rights trainings with a great coalition of organizations called Immigrants Are Welcome Here. There's a lot of great work going on around the entire community, and I encourage everyone to get involved. Obviously, we know what's going on in Congress. I voted no on the DHS funding. I don't think the agency should even exist. And on top of that, I mean, here's the thing, guys. This agency has not been around for a long time. I also don't believe it's gone rogue. I believe they're fulfilling the mission. The reason why it was created was to go into our communities and get people. That's the reason it was created. So if you disagree with what's going on right now, you disagree with the mission. If you disagree with the mission, you disagree with the agency. But Coalition needs as much help as we can get. There's great local legal aid organizations, which, by the way, if you're an immigrant and you get detained, having an immigration lawyer is also one of the things that you need it, right? It doesn't work like our normal criminal defense world where you get a public defender. Immigrants don't get public defender like that. And a lot of them are being tricked into signing self-deportation documents of things they can't even read if they don't know the language. Every month, I go to our local jail here at 33rd, and I go into jail and use my ability of oversight to do roundtables with everyone currently being detained. And that helps us kind of understand the experiences people are having and connect them with lawyers and their families. So if you want to get engaged in that, Immigrants Are Welcome Here. Does a lot of great work. If you're clergy, they're in front of the ERO, which is the field office, all the time, praying for people as they go in and giving them Know Your Rights cards. There are protests going on. As of now, we know that warehouse project, there's a lot of information out there. As of now, there's been no lease signed or anything like that. And I think a big reason for this is because the second we all heard of it, our community made a loud roar, which is really important. And not only did we say we don't want it because it's wrong and morally horrible, but it's also bad for our community. And we're making the money argument too, how it's going to impact tourism in the community as well. All these arguments we're making, I think it's working. So we need everybody's help. I appreciate the question. Thanks for the work you guys are doing. All right, one more, just one more. So I don't want to. And then I'm going to try to. Are we able to do the photos? Or do we have to be out? Just out of this room. Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm gonna try to stick around, whether it's outside. Yeah, like if you have a question, I'll be around afterwards.
Mr. Frost, Michael Williams. I first met you back almost a year ago when you were at Boone High School.
Yeah, oh yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you too. So the thing is, if anybody pay attention, you know what what's this rat thing Trump is. You all probably realized a few weeks ago, well, I was taught a few years ago, he said he wanted to make America an English-only country. We saw proof of that a few weeks ago when they said that in Florida, they will take the test for your driver's license. Now there will be English only. Yes, yeah, that's right. It is to have it in Haitian, Spanish, even Portuguese. No more. Now they'll only be in English. Now what can we do to counter this?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just repeat the question so people know. The state recently put a directive through where essentially when you're taking your driver's license test, they only do it in English. And they're taking away the ability for people to do it in other languages, which is horrible on many fronts. But one thing a lot of people haven't been talking about that I think is important is in terms of voter registration, your driver's license in the DMV is actually the entity that registers the most voters by far. By far. So not only do I think that this is like a way to mess with people in terms of driving, but it's also a way of keeping people from voting. And so a couple things, and if someone in the room knows a little bit more than me exactly where this is at, feel free to let me know. But there is litigation on this that would undo it for the state if it actually is successful. The other thing that I'm working on is there is a voting rights package that Democrats are setting up for when we, hopefully, knock on wood, take the House. And this is something that I'm pushing to get included into that package to preempt states from the ability to do this. And essentially arguing that it is a violation of people's civil rights and civil liberties to take away the ability to take their driver's license test in other languages. Why? Because this nation does not have an official language. We don't have one language. And so when you do that, it is discrimination. It is discrimination. And so hopefully we'll be successful in that. I've found that a lot of the bills that especially Democrats have been working on putting together are very narrow focused, and a lot of times it doesn't take into account how different things are in the South. And how we have a lot of equities we weigh here, especially in states that are run by people like DeSantis. And so I'm trying to provide that perspective on all these bills to really help us. I'll give you an example. When the first kind of DHS list came out that they were going to negotiate with Trump on, it had a lot of good things, but it had a lot of things that are good, but wouldn't drastically change things for us here. I'll give you an example. I told you that 80% of these ICE detentions happen because of Florida Highway Patrol and people being pulled over. So the question of ICE agents wearing masks, of course ICE agents shouldn't wear masks, and that has to be a part of the plan. But for people in the state of Florida, 80% of our people are being detained by Florida Highway Patrol and by people who are being pulled over. So it doesn't have as big of an impact on our people here in Florida, and that's why I pushed for a lot of the things that were added that would actually help us. So that perspective is a lot of times lacking, and that's why it's important that we have more Southerners and progressive Southerners in Congress. So I'm getting the look from about 10 different people. So this is one I have to wrap up, but I am committed. It could be on the sidewalk. I don't know where we have to go now. But if you have any other questions, I'm going to try to take pictures with folks. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Again, grab some of your rights cards. If you own a business or you teach somewhere, you want a stack of these for your home or to give them out, we won't be able to give you a stack now, but give us your name, your number, your information, and we will get them to you in Spanish, English, or Haitian Creole, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Wait, guys, can everyone stop for a minute? I forgot to do something. I forgot to do something that I think is really important. And I just want to do it really quickly, you know, because yesterday we lost a civil rights giant, Reverend Jesse Jackson. And I just want to make sure, he's someone who paved the way. I wouldn't be here without someone like Reverend Jesse Jackson. Actually, he was someone I always looked up to, and he ended up endorsing me when I ran for Congress. And I was one of the last people he ever endorsed. And I just want to give a moment of silence for Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thanks, everyone. Get home safe. Keep hope alive.
That was pretty much it. There's a lot of it. Congressman. Stay tuned for the next event. I'm going to be recording live at, so